In this video, we're going to take a look at temperature, and it's important to understand that there are two different units of measurement that we talk about. Fahrenheit with measurement. We have Fahrenheit, that's the customary units of measurement, and then Celsius, that's the metric units of measurement. Okay, so for example, if I'm taking a look at this word problem, a bearded lizard needs a hot spot in its cage that stays about 95 degrees Fahrenheit. What is that temperature degrees in Celsius? We can see there's a large gap between the numbers between Celsius and Fahrenheit. So I could see that my temperature is 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and then right over here within Celsius, I could see it's about 35 degrees Celsius. Not about 35 degrees Celsius, but exactly 35 degrees Celsius. Okay, so 95 degrees Fahrenheit and then 35 degrees Celsius is actually the same temperature. So once again, Fahrenheit, customary units of measurement. Celsius deals with the metric units of measurement. Okay, so it's important to understand that whenever there's an F and a C, what they represent, the F, pretty simple to figure out, Fahrenheit. The C represents Celsius. Okay, so it's important that you don't get that C mixed up with customary units of temperature or anything like that. Now, whenever I'm taking a look at a thermometer, it is important to figure out the intervals. Okay, what I mean by intervals, that's the amount that is represented between one dash or one line to the next. Okay, so you can see between 30 to 40, I only have one section, that's two sections, 3, 4, 5 sections there. Okay. However, we know between 40 and 30 there's a lot more numbers than just 5. So what I could figure out here, I could say, well, I think my intervals are 2. Okay, so in other words, from one line to the next, that would give me 2. So that would be 32, that would be 34, 36, 38, and then finally 40. So I have intervals of 2 for my Celsius. Okay, and then the same for my Fahrenheit. So it's important to understand the intervals. Okay, sometimes you'll have intervals of 2, sometimes you'll have intervals of 1, but usually nothing other than that. Okay, so if I'm taking a look at my degrees as far as Fahrenheit and as far as Celsius is concerned, what I need to do, first of all, let's erase this. The markings here, we'll erase these, and we'll take a look at figuring out the temperature. So, taking a look at this temperature here, I understand that I have intervals of 2 for my Fahrenheit, intervals of 2 for my Celsius. So I could see that for Celsius, that falls right on that 40 line there, so that would be 40 degrees Celsius. Okay, and then for my Fahrenheit, what I have here, I'll make sure I write that Celsius the correct way, 40 degrees Celsius. Okay, and then for Fahrenheit, you can see that I have 100. That would be 102 at that interval, and then 104. So 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, and that's a proper way to label it. Now let's go on to another one here. So what we have, once again, I take a look at my intervals. I have intervals of 2 for each section, both Celsius and Fahrenheit. If I'm going to take a look at my Fahrenheit, I can see I have 120, which is right here, 122, 124, because I know I have intervals of 2 there. So I have 124 degrees Fahrenheit. And then for my Celsius, what I can see here, once again, intervals of 2, I have 50 there. All right, and then the next one doesn't go quite up to the next interval. It kind of falls right in between the two. So that would actually be 51 degrees Celsius. And it's important to put either the C or the F because obviously 124 degrees Celsius is much hotter than 124 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's how you take a look at a thermometer and figure out the temperature. Once again, it's important to take a look at the intervals. Okay, then if anything ever falls in between an interval, even for example a problem like this, you can even take a look and see that the thermometer marker goes in between two intervals there. So we could see this is negative 20, this will be negative 18, this is negative 16, and that's negative 14. So in between negative 16 and negative 14 would actually be negative 15. And it's also important to remember whenever we're dealing with negatives, the higher you go, you can see that the actual digits decrease. Okay, so negative 20, and as you move up on the thermometer, you actually move up to negative 10, and then it'll actually go up to negative 8, which will be right here, then negative 6, and then negative 4, 2, and then finally 0. So that's important to remember whenever you're looking at a thermometer. Now the second part of today's lesson, we're going to take a look at changes within temperature. So it's important to understand if we're going from a low temperature to a high temperature, that represents an increase. From a high temperature to a lower temperature represents a decrease. Okay, so a way to do this is you want to subtract the lower number from the higher number to find the change. For example, if I'm going from 12 degrees Fahrenheit to 56 degrees Fahrenheit, I could take 56 minus 12, and that equals 44 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, now I went from a lower temperature to a higher temperature, so that is an increase. So it gives me 44 degrees Fahrenheit increase. So if I'm going from 5 degrees Celsius to 41 degrees Celsius, you can see that my numbers did increase. Okay, so what I do is I take 41 minus 5, that equals 36 degrees. Okay, 36 degrees Celsius increase. Okay, so let's take a look at another one. Let's say I have 101 degrees Fahrenheit going 2 degrees to 2 degrees Fahrenheit. What I do is I could take 101 minus 2. That gives me 99 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, and that is actually a decrease because I'm going from a greater number to a less number there. Okay, so 101 degrees to 2 degrees Fahrenheit is a 99 degree Fahrenheit decrease. Okay, let's take a look at another one here. Let's say I go from 0 degrees Celsius to 31 degrees Celsius. This is pretty simple here. 0 to 31, probably don't even have to write it out. That's a 31 degree Celsius. That's an increase. Okay, then taking a look at one more, 22 degrees Celsius, 31 degrees Celsius. We can take 31 minus 22. That gives us 9 degrees. So a 9 degree within Celsius, that would be a 9 degree increase. So one other part whenever we're looking at changes in temperature, it's important to understand that whenever we're dealing with negatives, it can be a little bit different. So but when temperature is in the negative numbers, you can do one of the following to find change. First of all, you can use a calculator to add both numbers together. And then also you can look at the thermometer and count the degrees in between. Okay, so let's say, for example, let's say I'm going from 18 degrees Fahrenheit to 4 degrees Fahrenheit. Okay, now we can see 18 to 14, or I'm sorry, to 4 degrees Fahrenheit. That's definitely a decrease. Okay, but we're not going to subtract 18 minus 4. That will only give us 14. So what we'll do, we'll add both numbers together. 18 degrees Fahrenheit to negative 4 degrees Fahrenheit equals 22 degrees. Okay, and that would actually be a decrease. Let's take a look at some more here. Okay, taking a look at one last one, we have negative 6 degrees Celsius to 12 degrees Celsius. What we can do, we can add the numbers together. 6 plus 12, that gives us 18. Okay, so since we're going from negative 6 to 12, okay, that would be an 18 degree increase. And those are some important tips whenever you're working with temperature, whether it's Fahrenheit or Celsius.